if you're watching this channel, well, odds are you either are looking for classes on hieroglyphics, cute cat videos, or if you're like me personally, you are an action figure collector, and an adult action figure collector at that, which makes us a unique species, shall we say. So how did we get here? How did we get to the point that we're taking toys, putting them behind glass, and observing them as opposed to actually playing with them? How did this happen? I mean, when I was a kid, I played with action figures. There's me with Stratos on my head and my best friend Sean in the Spider-Man t-shirt showing off his merman that I never had. Go see my other merman video. And then here I am all grown up, still playing with toys. Well, maybe not playing, but when did playing become collected? How exactly did this happen? How did we start turning our basements and our offices and our extra bedrooms into toy caves? I mean, as kids, when we were given toys, we knew what to do with them, right? You played with them, and you brought out your friends, and you brought out your vehicles, and it was a lot of fun. As a child, my first major toy, well, probably was Fisher-Price, but then was Star Wars. Star Wars was sort of my first big boy toy, you could say, as opposed to a toddler toy. Oh, the AT-AT, how I loved the AT-AT. I love it so much that I still treat it to some time outdoors when it snows, because, you got to treat your toys right and give them a little outdoor time and some time to romp around the yard, because, that's what toys do, right? They're alive. I've seen Toy Story. All right, well, I moved on from Star Wars. My next major love as far as a big boy toy line, again, as opposed to a toddler line, boy, that's going to haunt me, isn't it, using that phrase, was He-Man, Masters of the Universe. I was a huge Masters of the Universe fan, and it was kind of right there in the middle, like sort of the buzz-off whiplash time, when I wasn't there for the end of the line, I wasn't there for the very beginnings, but I was a big sort of middle He-Man kid. And then Transformers. Transformers was another big one that I really loved. I didn't have that many Transformers, but I loved the show and the movie, the 86 movie. I remember having Grimlock and that being one of my favorite figures. Now, the thing that sort of drew all of my toys together as a kid as far as playing was Construx. I've made a video about Construx in the past. It's a building system made of girders and bolts and wheels. You click things together. It was also done by Fisher-Price, much like the Little People. And boy, God, it was a lot of fun. I made a whole video actually about Construx and the history of it and why in the world this is no longer available at retail. I used to use Construx as kind of the intermediator between other toy lines. So I would build things from Construx that could be used for my other toys, like building a Death Star, if you will, because, I didn't have a full Death Star playset. Actually, I know they made sort of that one from '78, but you get the point. The point is Construx allowed you to really incorporate a lot of toys together, and you could take your existing action figures and build playsets and vehicles for them. My final toy line as a kid, in a way, was kind of Ninja Turtles. So I got into Ninja Turtles right when it came out in '87. So this was kind of like me trading my He-Man and Transformers in for Ninja Turtles. And I was definitely creeping up in age by this point and kind of growing out of the toy playing age. So I remember in particular Ray Fillet being a Ninja Turtle figure I hunted for and really wanted. I still played with him, with my Turtles, but this was sort of the first figure I bought to collect because I wanted him on my shelf. Now the one, though, that changed everything was Tattoo. So this was a figure I remember very vividly. I was with my father at the Target in Irvine, California on Barranca, and I found this figure. It was a brand new figure. I hadn't seen it before. I thought it was really awesome. I loved that he had those stickers that you could choose to tattoo him any way you wanted. And my father said to me in the store that I could either take this toy home and play with it and decorate him with tattoos all over his body, or I could start growing up and dating girls and doing, I guess, more teenage things, if you will, than playing with toys. It was basically time to go on or give up. I either had to stop playing with toys entirely or I don't know what. In fact, my father said I could either have the blonde or the action figure. I'll never forget that, which, of course, being ironic since I married a blonde woman who's also incredibly smart. But that's a story for another time. The point is, my father's speech, it was time to walk away. I kind of respected it. I got it. Okay, no more toys. Yeah, I was still kind of picking up a few, though, but now we were sort of less into playing and more into collecting. So after Ninja Turtles, I turned to a few of the Marvel superheroes, really just getting characters that spoke to me, like Venom and Silver Surfer were big favorites of mine. But I passed on Deathlock, much like I passed on Tattoo, because I felt like, okay, I have to stop. I'm an adult now, or a young adult, or a teenager, and it's time to move away from playing with toys and start doing more adult things like, oh, I don't know, what do adults do? Use microwaves? And this is why I never collected the 90s X-Men line, despite being a huge fan and loving it and loving the cartoon show. Because I had made the decision that, yes, I was going to stop playing with toys, and now it was time to be an adult, which meant these were kids' playthings, and I should not be acquiring them. Especially that Cable figure. It was the only one I really got. I just thought that was great. And as cool as it was to have one of the more sort of badass X-Men characters, which I kind of thought X-Force was like the X-Men title that the popular kids were into, and I wasn't cool enough for it, but I was still going to get the figure. Well, like I said, these are action figures, and at the end of the day...
Oh, you're an action figure! You are a child's plaything!
But then something happened. So here I was, walking away, and not just one thing happened, but actually two things happened that sort of changed my toy collecting world. What? There can be two things that are true at once. Not everything is from one thing. In fact, there was probably more than two things. But let's just go with two things at the moment. All right. So the first thing that happened was Image Comics. So in 91, 92, 93, well, 92, Image Comics formed, and this was pretty groundbreaking for a comic book fan because it was like a whole new universe with the top talent from Marvel. I've talked before about how Savage Dragon is one of my absolute favorite comic books, but I was there for all of them for Image, even the ones that gave you, eye problems from staring at the cover. But I would say one of the more important ones from a historical standpoint would be Todd McFarlane's work on Spawn. A lot of us know Spawn. I mean, he's, been around now for 30 years, very popular character. The first 15 or so issues that Todd drew himself were amazing as far as, they were good stories, but the art was, mind-blowing. He was an incredible artist. And he went on, obviously, to form McFarlane Toys, bringing us back to the toy aspect of this video. McFarlane Toys has done a lot of product of the year, everything from Zodiac figures to Stranger Things. Zodiac. Did I say Zodiac? Like the He-Man figure? Zodiac. Zodiac figures, Stranger Things, Shrek, sports, even combining Shrek with sports. They're now back to making Spawn toys, which kind of started the whole thing, but that actually brings us right to the point. So the early days of McFarlane Toys, back when they were called Todd Toys, before Mattel threatened to sue them because Todd is an obscure Barbie character, and somehow they thought people would confuse Spawn with Barbie's Todd. Oh well. So Todd Toys was changed to McFarlane Toys, and he put out this. So this was, Ray Fillet was a figure I kind of hunted down. This was the first figure that I hadn't pre-thought about buying, but when I picked it up at a KB at a mall, I had to have it. It was so different from other superhero figures that had come out in the past that were much more, detail-less, is that the word? The Spawn toys from McFarlane were just overrun with detail, with paint ops. They were bigger than regular superhero figures, and they were groundbreaking. They really changed the way we as consumers perceived getting action figures, because now, for, $2 or $3 more than the standard figure, you were getting a lot more deco, a lot more paint. Even if you took off the capes and you took off the accessories, you were still getting a character that looked a lot better than what we've been getting in the past throughout the 80s and early 90s. And obviously McFarlane just kept taking this concept, pushing it to the next level, as wave after wave of figures came out with even more detail and more deco and more accessories. No one had seen action figures like this, especially in the US. And when the Horsemen joined, the Four Horsemen, as his sculpting team, well, it really did change everything. And a lot of the mainstream toys from Hasbro, Toy Biz, Mattel had to start kind of incorporating the McFarlane detail look. All right. So besides Image Comics and Spawn, or McFarlane Toys starting up, the other thing that happened was Star Wars was back. Power of the Force. So I mentioned before about what a big fan of Star Wars I was growing up, and Hasbro/Kenner was all in. TV advertising, vehicles, figures, full planogram. All right, I said to myself, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to get back into Star Wars toys. Then I said, all right. I'll just buy one. I will just get Chewbacca. Because, who doesn't love Chewbacca? And then I could have kind of one sort of token Star Wars figure sitting on my desk, and it would be cool. But, I wasn't going to start buying Star Wars figures from day one again. I had all my figures, or most of them, from being a kid. But they just kept coming out, and they were so cool. I said, all right, I'll just get the first wave, because that's the main characters. And then I'm done. And then the second wave came out. And I said, okay, well, I'll start picking and choosing, because, I have to get Yoda, obviously. Ooh, a Dagobah Luke. They never did Dagobah Luke. Ooh, an X-Wing Snowspeeder Luke. And Boba Fett, Shadows of the Empire, Jedi Luke, and yeah, just snowballed. So I was basically like, I'm all in. That's it. I thought I would just be happy with Chewbacca or Wave 1, and then suddenly I found myself buying every modern Star Wars figure that came out from the original trilogy. Part of this was my realization that I owned so few of the figures from the original line. When I was a kid, I thought I owned the entire spectrum of the figures, the vehicles and stuff. Obviously there were some characters I didn't have that my friends would have when I'd go over their house, but I pretty much thought I had a lot, and it turned out I had very few. I probably had like a total of maybe 30 figures out of the 92. When I first saw this image in Steve Sansweet's book, I was blown away. I was like, whoa, I had no idea there were that many. And that was part of the motivation to getting the modern line, was saying, well, since I didn't have all the figures as a kid, as an adult, or a teenager at the time, now that I'm empowered, I have my own money, sort of, from working in the comic book store, I was going to get them all. I was going to catch them all. And that's when an addiction becomes a hobby. But we started living in this crazy golden age of action figure collecting after that. Once Power of the Force 2 hit and the Spawn figures, it very much opened the door to companies putting out more product for collecting. Simpsons, Lord of the Rings, Muppets. It was just non-stop for several years of amazing toys with huge amounts of detail. Even Mattel doing that with the Masters of the Universe line, copying what McFarlane had done from a visual. Then Marvel Legends came along, and of course the same thing with realization of how few Marvel figures I'd gotten. It's like every time I think I'm done, something cool comes out and it pulls me back in. What can I say? This stuff can become very addictive, and it gives you a great feeling of accomplishment and a feeling of control because you have all the figures and you know where to get them, and no matter what's happening in your life, your figures are where you want them. I've been lucky enough to get a career in toys, and I've gone on to work for some of the larger toy companies, some smaller ones too, and I've worked on product lines that I actively collect. He-Man, DC, Ghostbusters. Obviously, year after year, my storage space gets smaller and smaller as I cram more and more stuff into my back office. But that was basically how I went from becoming a toy player, I guess, to a toy collector. And it's a big reason why I get X-Men Marvel Legends, because since I never got those as a kid, since I passed on them, getting the Marvel Legends figures, especially characters like Cable from X-Force, well, this was a way of gaining control over what I couldn't get as a kid. And of course, Ray Fillet is still a big part of my collection. He's with my other aquatic characters set up in my bathroom. What can I say? I love toys. So how did you become an adult collector? When did you make the transition from being a kid playing with toys to now collecting toys? When did that happen for you? Let me know in the comments below, and we'll chat, we'll talk, and thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.